France and England gave us a great end to the tournament. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. We had a little glimpse of some French flair early on. Ficou passing the ball between his legs to set up a French break down the wing. Doesn't come to anything, but kind of really showed right at the start France were up for this, and we haven't really seen that, from them consistently through this year's Six Nations. England again though with great line speed and pressure in defence. France's power though close in and in the maul. Some pick and goes, making them some great meters in the opening minutes. England then lose Furbank to a calf problem after less than 10 minutes of the game. Marcus Smith comes on for him. Thought Smith had a decent game when he come on. England then win a scrum penalty as Antonio goes down. George Ford steps up and he puts England 3-0 ahead. Marcus Smith then gets isolated as he runs a kickback. Marchand gets over the ball to win a penalty. Ramos squares it up at 3-all. France then score off a line-out steal. Crow nicks it at the front. France then shifted across their own 22. Ficou glides through a gap, gets it to Barret, who sells a dummy before then putting Lagaric over to score. Really well worked try from France there. Ramos adds the extras and it's 10-3, and I think at that stage was potentially that was the try of the tournament. There were some peaches in this tournament this year, but this one has to be certainly up there for consideration. Alex Mitchell then with a clever kick over the top. The bounce beats Barret, glances off him and out. England have a line out, about 7 meters out, but that comes to nothing. France then on the counter again. Pinot gets free and then puts a kick down the middle. Biel Barry just super fast. The guy leaves Freeman for dead, and Marcus Smith has to carry the ball over his own line. You can hear Jamie George arguing with the referee about, you should check that again. Maybe, it was actually over the line, but we could see the replays and he definitely carried it over. 5 minute scrum to France. First from that they go with pick and goes, but then Ramos tries a crossfield kick that was never on, and just Pinot shaking his head, shrugging his shoulders, just not happy with it at all. Kroos and Olivon then carry well after Toji gets stripped by Antonio, and that results in the penalty. Ramos puts that over from a tough angle, 13-3. A few minutes later then he tags on another one to make it 16-3, and at that stage you're thinking 13 points is a decent lead for France, and England haven't really fired a shot yet in the game. England though, they win a penalty close to the French line, win a couple of them actually, and closing in on half time at this stage. They then they decide, forwards have a go at it a bit. They're the ones that win the couple of penalties, but then they decide they're going to go out to the backs, go to Slade. He puts Lawrence through a hole and over to score. Ford converts for 16-10 at halftime, and that felt like a really big score. And then as we get into the second half, then England strike pretty much straight after the break. Underhill and Earl combine to get them deep into the 22. Few recycles later and Lawrence is over for his second try. Ford converts and England now hit the lead 17-16. So basically in those few minutes just before halftime and just after halftime, they came from looking like they were nowhere in the game to leading the game, and that's I think a great sign if you're an England fan. Those minutes they call championship minutes, just before halftime, just after halftime, and just before the end as well. England managing to score, 2 tries either side of the break, and that shows a team that are switched on from the start, and that as well go right to the end of the play as well. So I think that's a great thing for England for the future, because having that ability to score around those times really can swing the game, and it did in this case as well for England. Then they're almost in again. Freeman dances down the right wing. It looked like there was a deliberate knock on in there from France, but we don't, it doesn't get called back, and we don't really see any up close replays of it. But France managed to clear. England though score off the line out from that. Anyway, from that clearance, Earl goes through a gap, then off to Smith, who puts in just a great step around Pinot and goes over to score. Ford adds the extras, 24-16. England just absolutely blitzing this, because that was just a couple of minutes after that this second of Lawrence's tries. France then go to their power, pick and goes, some good carries from the likes of Antonio and Tofi Fanua, and then they switch out to the backs. Fiku carries well, then Barre goes over to score. Ramos converts for 24-23, and it was a good combination of some of the best of French rugby. I think, that power, that ability just to keep that pace of the game going and always keep the defense on the back foot, then linking forwards and backs together, offloading, keeping the ball alive, and then finally when the gap is there, exploiting it. And that's what we saw in that try. Then we have Theo Dan is on for George, and a hooker, he overthrows the line out. Ramos just kind of hacks the loose ball ahead. Smith could have done better. Like the ball, it kind of lets the ball bounce. He's not sure whether to attack the ball or not. He doesn't, and he gets beaten to the ball, and it's then offloaded to Fiku, who goes over to score. Ramos converts, and it's 30 points to 24, and that's a big swing in the game, but the pendulum isn't done swinging yet. Stewart then collapses a maul, and France they go up the line from the penalty. They then get another penalty for a deliberate knock on, and Ramos calls for the tee, but he misses the chance to make it a 2-score game. And at that stage, I'm thinking that could be costly, because it feels like there's maybe 1 or 2 more scores left in the game, and if England get over, that could be enough for them to win. England do get over. Dombrandt wins a penalty at the breakdown. England go to the corner. They secure the ball from the line out. Tuilagi trucks it up. Probably his only significant involvement in the game. I'd say certainly on the attacking side of the thing, he did put in it once he come on, put in some work in defence as well. But then they go out wide. Some great hands to put Freeman over for the bonus point try. Ford then nails a touchline kick for the conversion, puts them back into the lead, 31-30. France now have to find something with only a few minutes left on the clock. They come forward. They're looking for that score that potentially would give them the win. They force a penalty as they were up in that pace. It's on halfway, but Ramos, we know, has the distance. He just needs to be accurate. He nails it, makes it 33-31. England restart, but France hold on to the ball then for the last couple of minutes, and they get off the pitch for full time. 33-31, France win. And yeah, it was just a really exciting game, and a lot of time between those two. We see that great, really entertaining game, and long may it continue as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so let's have a look at the stats. Possession 59% to 41. France, having a lot more ball than England, and then territory a bit closer, though, 52% to 48. England, I thought their kicking game was pretty good. Like they although they at times found it difficult to cope with France's kicking game, because they did what Ireland probably should have done, which was putting those little kicks over the top to keep that rush defense, the blitz defense, honest. and caught England out a few times. But England, I thought, in terms of their kicking for territory and contestable kicks, they actually played very well with that. In terms of tries, then 3 tries for France, 4 for England, so a bonus point for them. There was like lots of debate about bonus points during the week that came to nothing in the end, because Ireland didn't win on bonus points. But England do get the bonus point out of this one. Carries then 125 for France and 64 for England. Meters carried 715 to 436. And meters gained 472. So France gaining more meters than England actually carried in the game to 293. So France making a lot of those meters, but still England showing that they now have, I think, the quality and a lot more accuracy than we saw earlier on in the tournament, meaning that they can live off. It wasn't really scraps, but compared to what France had, live off those scraps and still stick in the game, and it easily could have won this. Then in terms of line breaks, it was 7 each. Defenders beaten 36 to 18 in favor of France, but like a big chunk of those must have been Pinot when he did it. He did it early on in the tournament. He did it last year as well. It's this one where he runs across the defensive line and just tempts people to come try and tackle him. And he beat, I don't know, 5 or 6 English players just doing that, just probing for a hole. And he's so good at it. Total passes then 144 to 78. Offloads 10 for France, 2 for England. We've seen England not really offloading all that much, although they did for... wasn't a Furbank's try against Ireland to great effect. France with some really good offloads that led to breaks or to tries as well for them. Handling errors 15 for France, 9 for England. So again, you can see England's accuracy there, keeping the error count in single figures. Turnover conceded then 13 for France and 14 for England. We're now going to have a look at the kicking. So kicks in play 37 for France and 34 for England. And this is the crazy thing. Kicking meters 1040 for France, 1105 for England. And this is something that I think casual rugby fans and don't really look at the stats very well, don't get, is that this is a really exciting game, and there were lots of kicks in it and lots of meters made from those kicks as well. But it was a truly exciting game, open play, because kicks create that kind of unstructured play and those chances to make breaks and to just kind of get the defense out of position. So the whole thing that people are always kind of fed this line of kicks are boring and we need to somehow discourage kicks and to almost get them out of the game to have exciting running rugby, which is it's not true, because we've seen with teams that don't kick so much, a lot of the time they're just faced with a defensive wall because the opposition know they're not going to kick, so they don't have to have players in the backfield to receive those kicks, right? Whereas when teams kick the way these two teams did, like, they're not just kicking for the sake of it. It's not just like, oh, we don't know what to do, so just whack the ball down there and see what happens. It's trying to move the players around the backfield and get them out of position to then either put in a kick that's going to give you like a 50-22 or a decent position on the field where you can then bring your running game, or it's about putting contestable kicks up there where you can potentially regain possession, or you can put more pressure on the opposition attack with your defense, because they're not quite aligned to attack properly, so you can isolate people, win penalties or win turnovers, and then it leads to the type of rugby that we saw today. It's no kind of coincidence that with normally in this tournament, the teams that kick the most are the ones who actually provide the most entertaining running rugby as well. It's because the two tactics go together. It's not kind of separate things of we don't know what to do, we're just going to kick it. We're kicking it because we feel like that's going to give us the best chance to get our then running game into play as well. On to then defense. So tackles made 77 for France, 136 for England. Tackles missed then 18 to 36. So England's defense, if you're blitzing and you're blitzing against a team that were in great form or seem to be really up for it, the way France were, you're going to miss tackles. And tackle percentage 81% for France, which is a way down on where they normally are. Again, that's credit to England's improvement in their attack, making them miss those tackles. I'd have to go back and look at it, but I think that could be France's worst, at least first up defense performance in the tournament. I think they were probably higher than that against Ireland. Kind of my memory is saying like they were somewhere in the higher 80s, certainly not down at 81 against Ireland. And then 79% for England. Again, that defensive system is going to get better over time, but it's not really geared towards just making 90% or wherever of your tackles. It's geared towards, even if you miss tackles, that player who missed the tackle puts pressure on the player in possession and pressure on the player potentially receiving a pass, maybe gets in the passing channel to cut off different options as well. So you don't necessarily have to make all of your first up tackles to make it work. On to discipline then. Penalties conceded, just 5 for France, 10 for England. And especially in that first half, I felt that the penalty concession by England was just giving France that chance to eke out the lead. And England did really well given the way the penalty count went to work their way back into the game, I felt. Free kicks then, 1 for France and none for England, and no cards in the game. Onto the breakdown then. Rooks won 91 to 49 for France, and Rooks lost 1 each. Percentage of Rooks 0 to 3 seconds. So like quick ball, 48% for France, 38 for England. Compare that to Ireland and Scotland earlier. Both of those were in the high 50s, almost touching on the 60%. So they had a lot more quick ball, but didn't produce the spectacle that we saw here. So it's not again, that's why I think stats are so good, is that it's not necessarily to have a quick ball all the time to to have exciting rugby. It's about the transitions from defense to attack, and if you can get like quick ball, then that's where you find those gaps. You don't have to do it every single time, and sometimes as well it can help to delay, and we saw the teams that using, a lot of people don't like the caterpillar, but using the caterpillar to set things up, and obviously that's much slower ball for them, but to get in those positions too. So again, it's another one. It's why I love looking at the stats after games, is that what we have in our minds in terms of how the game should be played and what the stats should look like if the game was played that way is not always a true reflection of what actually happened. Set pieces then, scrums 1, 2 for France, 3 for England. So only and 1 scrum lost for France as well. So only 6 scrums in the whole game. Line outs 1, and actually as well I think, wasn't Agnes Gardner was the referee? I think he just mentioned something as well when they had the first scrum. He said, "Oh, it's like 26 minutes or 25 minutes until the first scrum," and then I think we had like 2 or 3 in a little bit of a flurry, and then we didn't have one for a while after that. Lineouts then 16-13. Lineouts lost 1 for. 1 for France, 2 for England, but then England did have 1 line-out steal to kind of even things up there. And I thought the line-outs for England went really well until Theo Dan came on, and his throwing was a little bit suspect there. Whereas I felt like France were kind of at a consistent level through it, even though at times England were putting on some decent pressure on them. But those are our stats now. What about the 2 teams in terms of the game and also in terms of the tournament overall? So let's start with England. Had a slow start to the game, but then put in a very good final 50 minutes or so. Those few minutes just before half time. Well, I thought they were really good. And even at the start of the game, even though they weren't offering too much in attack, still you could see that line speed there and the pressure on the French as well, making it difficult for France at times as well. Some really well constructed tries in there, showing that they've got nice variety on their attack. Their alignment and their execution as well has just come on so much, and obviously there's still more for that. I think they could certainly at times pick up the pace a little bit of their attack, maybe have some more disguise on what they're doing as well, but for now it's effective, and it's working for them, and you add those extras on once you kind of get the basics in there, and I think they're kind of at the point where they're getting on top of those basics, and that's really good to see. And I think overall they're definitely on the up, and I think it's clear now that last week was an indication of where this team is going rather than some kind of flash in the pan or anything like that. I'd also like to take this chance to say best luck to Manu Tuilagi. This was his last game for England because he is he's leaving English rugby, so he won't be available anymore for selection. We honestly don't think we saw enough of him at test level. He should be going down as one of the greats of the game if he had played as many tests as certainly his skills and ability would suggest, but injuries just robbed him of that. But when he was on it, that guy was amazing and pretty much unstoppable in the test arena at times. But as I said as well, in terms of England overall, definitely looking in good shape. France then scored some crazy tries today. Definitely, the Legaric one, up there for try of the tournament. Certainly in the conversation with probably 1 or 2 of Van der Merwe's tries as well. I think they did well to respond, and each time that England came back at them in the game, because you've got to think that given how they started in the first 3 games, that there's might have still been some fragility there in terms of just the mental side of things, of being able to cope with teams coming back at them. But I thought they did that well. They were able to step up again and bring that that intensity and that speed to their play as well. And again, it doesn't have to be all the time. It's in fits and bursts. It really can be effective, because suddenly you catch the opposition on the hop, and they're always kind of on backpedaling, trying to keep you out. Then also, I think obviously looked much better at the end of the tournament than it did at the start, but still not anywhere near the level that they were in last year's tournament or the year before. But Galtier, he was under pressure in the early rounds, but now, you know, they finished second in the tournament, albeit like certainly some fortuitous results in there. You know, looking at the Scotland game and the Italy game as well, those two could have been losses for them. So a little bit of luck, but you know, it's sport. You're hoping for luck all the time, right? But I think in terms of what was looking like maybe a disaster after some, you know, World Cup hangover of a tournament for them, it's actually finished with them, you know, in a positive position to go forward into their summer tours. I think for both of these teams as well, that they both come out of not just this game but of the tournament as well, you know, with a bit of a spring in their step and feeling like that, you know, things are heading in the right direction again.